There are growing questions this hour about dozens of records that appear to be missing from the Epstein files. Those records in question are FBI witness interviews, and 3 of the missing interviews are related to a woman who accused both Jeffrey Epstein and President Trump of sexually assaulting her decades ago.
Well, the president has waged war on Iran, providing a plethora of ever-changing reasons to justify why this article may have flown under your radar. An article by none other than Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal. The journal reported that the Justice Department have selected which Epstein-related files the public would see, while withholding others that reference none other than a certain man by the name of Donald Trump. According to the report, tens of thousands of documents remained offline while only a limited selection was released. And several FBI interview memos that included references to Trump were not part of the public disclosure. Seems odd, right?
I went to the DOJ file search room yesterday to look for these documents that are in the manifest document, and they should be in there, and they're not there. These documents relate to a survivor that has made serious allegations about the president. What's important now is that the DOJ explained to us why were those documents removed.
Hours after this story broke today, the Justice Department responded to questions of where these documents are, saying, as with all documents flagged by the public, the department is currently reviewing files within that category of production. Should any document be found to have been improperly tagged in the review process and is responsive to the act, meaning the law that forced them to publish all of this, the department will, of course, publish it consistent with that law.
They are not responding to the law. And at this point, I think it appears clearer and clearer every day that they are knowingly violating and willfully violating the law that we passed, that Donald Trump signed into law.
Now, the political significance isn't just the documents themselves. It's who broke the story. The Wall Street Journal, part of Rupert Murdoch's media empire, the same media manipulation network that includes Fox News, often serving as a sympathetic platform for Donald Trump. But even Fox News, as of late, can be found airing his disaster polling numbers.
It is a full-scale war, and it's bringing with it serious disruption. No surprise, there is high anxiety all around the world. Energy prices have gone straight up. Iranian drones have hit the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia. The State Department is telling Americans in more than a dozen countries, leave. Luxury hotels in the Gulf states have been hit. Qatar has stopped producing nat gas, and the price has spiked. The cost of insuring oil tankers is going straight up. Voters, they're getting skittish. 59% disapprove.
The Wall Street Journal, they're the ones eager to redirect the focus back on the Epstein files and what should be a front page story across every platform. Because the controversy centers on how the Epstein files were released, something that has been disastrous for this administration since they claimed that they were the most transparent administration in history. Remember the big binders? Well, it's been stop-start ever since. The Wall Street Journal's reporting indicates that more than 47,000 Epstein-related documents were left offline, and multiple FBI memos mentioning Trump by name were withheld from the release, which rightfully raises immediate questions, right?
Well, as my friend Joanne Carducci said, there's 3 people mentioned most in the Epstein files, and that's Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Donald Trump. One of them is in prison, one of them died in prison, and one of them is the president of the United States, but we're deposing Hillary Clinton. Like, it doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, the government has repeatedly lied about these files. They refuse to release the full files. Then they're hiding the documents, and now they're pointing allegations everywhere except at the president, who is in the files the very most. And this is a huge distraction to use Hillary Clinton, the vicious, evil Hillary Clinton, as a distraction from what they've actually done.
How many times have we heard this administration say that these files have exonerated Trump and there's nothing to hide? Well, it doesn't seem to be the case, does it? Why were documents selectively withheld? And why were the ones referencing the president among those that never reached the public database? I mean, those questions matter not only politically, right, but institutionally, especially as the House Oversight Committee is out here posturing as these beacons of justice, bringing in the Clintons and set to subpoena countless other notable figures mentioned in the files. But they're just bypassing the president or the first lady.
The Epstein files, potentially. I do think in this case, as my colleague Annie Carney says, this isn't Hillary Clinton's first rodeo. She kind of ate Republicans for lunch during the Benghazi hearing. So I don't think this will go very well for them. I think it will be different for Bill Clinton.
Republicans have now set a new precedent, which is to bring in presidents and former presidents to testify. So we're once again going to make that call that we did yesterday. We are now asking and demanding that President Trump officially come in and testify in front of the Oversight Committee. He appears in the Epstein files next to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell almost more than anybody else. So it's time for the president to answer questions about why files are missing from the DOJ.
And what is notable here is that the Wall Street Journal's reporting fits into a broader pattern that has frustrated investigators, lawmakers, and the American public. The Justice Department has acknowledged that millions of Epstein-related documents remain under review. But at the same time, reports like this indicate that some documents containing allegations invoking Trump were deliberately removed from publicly accessible databases. And only now, after further scrutiny and the threat of subpoenaing Pam Bondi, are we told that these documents might then be released.
And I want to be clear, just to clarify two things that I think you alluded to. One, Donald Trump is accused of sexually assaulting a child in those memos that you mentioned. Two, that it's not just a few dozen documents that are not being turned over. Fully half of the documents that we're aware of, some 3 million documents, have not been turned over by the DOJ. They claim they fully responded, and yet we've found over and over again, and I can tell you that oversight Democratic staff have confirmed what you have found, that these documents are missing. They were not turned over, even though they were very clearly responsive to the questions that we asked. And this appears to be part of a very broad cover-up. And you may remember back to last May, when Pam Bondi reportedly told Donald Trump he was in the Epstein files. After that, there were a lot of reports that DOJ attorneys were being asked to go redact documents, to hide documents, to remove documents from the files that had Donald Trump's name. So we're definitely continuing to look at this, but it appears that the DOJ is willfully violating the law.
It creates a troubling perception, right? Not that documents are still being processed, but that decisions are being made behind the scenes as to what the public sees and what they don't. And not to mention who is questioned and who's not, as MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell pointed out. If their focus is to bring in people based on their ties to Epstein and the wives of those with alleged ties to Epstein, why is Melania Trump exempt?
There is exactly one first lady in history who met sex trafficker and raper of children and good friend of Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein. And today, Republicans on the House Oversight Committee decided to question a former first lady who never met Jeffrey Epstein instead of the first lady currently occupying the White House. Where is their subpoena for Melania Trump? The Epstein files contain emails from Melania Trump to Ghislaine Maxwell complimenting Ghislaine Maxwell. The Epstein files contain no communication at all between Hillary Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, but Republicans on the committee decided they wanted to subpoena Hillary Clinton. Where is their subpoena for Melania Trump, who actually knew Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? Why aren't they asking Melania Trump? Did Donald Trump introduce you to Jeffrey Epstein, or did Jeffrey Epstein introduce you to Donald Trump? Why aren't they asking Melania Trump what she knew about Jeffrey Epstein? The Epstein files show the Palm Beach police chief saying that Donald Trump told him in 2006, quote, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." If true, that would mean that Donald Trump's wife at that time, Melania Trump, knew he was doing this. She would be included in Donald Trump's term, everyone. Melania Trump might have no useful information to provide to the committee, but she did meet Jeffrey Epstein. She was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. She was friends with Ghislaine Maxwell. And it is possible that she knew something. According to her husband, everyone knew.
And for Trump, one of the most damaging aspects of this story regarding what would soon be his excuse, no doubt, is the source. Because when the Wall Street Journal reports something damaging about a Republican administration, Trump can't rely so easily on his excuses that this is just fake news that conservative media are conspiring against him. So when it raises questions about the Epstein files and the Justice Department's handling of them, the story carries credibility across both sides of the political spectrum. And it comes as another issue has been brought up recently. Thomas Massie, who has been at the forefront of calls to release every single file related to the Epstein saga, claimed that members of his team were offered more prestigious jobs in the Trump administration in an effort to stall legislation that would have forced the Department of Justice to release all documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein. And this is according to reporting from The Atlantic.
I provided the evidence today that shows that his statements were false under oath. Kash Patel's statements were false. They are in possession. They were in possession at the time, and they're still in possession of evidence that other men participated in the sex trafficking.
Attorney General Bondi didn't seem to directly answer that question. I mean, what do you make of what she did say?
She didn't answer anything. She came here just ready to talk about the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ, which seems kind of crazy to me.
They claim that the Kentucky Libertarian told the magazine there was a 360 pressure campaign coming from the Trump administration to derail his push for a congressional vote on releasing the Epstein files last summer. Pressure so intense that it rippled across his entire orbit. I mean, one employee reportedly received an offer that would have doubled his salary just weeks before the House was set to vote on releasing the files. I mean, how this is not, how more outlets are not reporting on this as frank as they should is just beyond me, because it coincides with reports that the White House also made similar overtures to the MAGA-aligned women in Congress who joined Massie and other Democratic representatives like Representative Ro Khanna in spearheading the Epstein effort. They include Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert.
It sure looks like Congresswoman Lauren Boebert did a brave thing today. Few people in politics are more polarizing, but put politics aside and consider what is being reported by the New York Times, CNN, and others, that President Trump directly pressured Boebert to help him stop the release of the Epstein files by pulling her support off a congressional petition and sinking that effort. Reports say the Trump White House also brought Boebert into the Situation Room for a meeting with the Attorney General and the FBI Director, who we should note are accused of using the Justice Department to punish people who defy the president. And by all appearances, Boebert did defy the president.
Jeffrey Epstein was supposedly killed. That's on an FBI form. That's not somebody calling in an anonymous tip or writing it on some deep, dark place in the internet. That's an actual FBI file stating what happened. And people are going to have to completely take in what they are seeing with their own eyes, what they're reading, and what they're being told. The reality is the Trump administration is not releasing the information. And I got yelled at by the president over this. This is why he called me a traitor. He called me a traitor because I would not take my name off the discharge petition, because I stood firmly and said, no, we're going to release the Epstein files. I'm standing with women who were raped as teenagers. I'm not standing with the government. I don't support the cover up of all of this stuff, whatever it may be.
That is why the reaction from Trump's orbit has been so intense, right? With every single sign pointing to a clear cover-up involving the most heinous of crimes, they have to do everything possible to deflect, even if it means war.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.